The royal hall fell silent as Lissa's hand touched the human's arm. Every gaze locked on them, her mother's especially. The Empress of Eller never looked surprised, but now her eyes widened just slightly. The human, Marcus, stood perfectly still, his expression unreadable. "Mother," Lissa said, voice steady despite the tremor in her chest, "I've chosen." The court erupted. Nobles hissed in their native tongue. Advisors leaned toward the throne, whispering urgently. Lissa's scales shimmered violet with defiance, but Marcus remained calm, his dark eyes forward, hands clasped behind his back in that distinctly military way he always carried himself. The Empress raised one hand. Silence crashed down like a physical weight. "You would bind yourself to this, human?" The word wasn't quite an insult, but it carried the weight of 1,000 years of Valeron superiority. A creature whose lifespan is a fraction of yours? Whose world we discovered barely a generation ago. "Yes," Lissa lifted her chin. "The Accord allows it. Any species within the Alliance may. I know what the Accord allows, daughter." The Empress descended 3 steps from her throne, and the temperature in the hall seemed to drop. "But do you know what you're choosing? Who stands beside you?" Marcus's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Lissa noticed. She'd learned to read his micro-expressions over the months since his arrival as part of Earth's diplomatic corps. While other humans laughed and socialized, Marcus watched, listened, moved through the palace like a ghost in formal dress. "I know him," Lissa said. "Better than you might think. Do you?" The Empress stopped directly before them. Her scales, deep crimson with age and authority, seemed to glow in the hall's amber light. "Tell me, daughter, what is his family name?" "Reeves." Lissa frowned. "Marcus Reeves. And before that?" Marcus's voice cut through the tension, quiet but clear. "Your Majesty, this isn't necessary, isn't it?" The Empress circled him slowly, predator assessing prey. "You've been here 7 months, Marcus Reeves. 7 months of standing in corners, observing, saying little. My daughter believes she knows you." She stopped before him, meeting his eyes directly. "But I've done what she has not. I've looked beyond the surface." Lissa's chest constricted. "Mother, what are you—" His credentials were impeccable. Too impeccable. The Empress gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the air. "Junior Diplomatic Attaché. Recommended by Earth's Diplomatic Corps. Clean record. Simple background." The display shifted, showing documents, photos, commendations. But humans, I've learned, are very good at hiding things when they wish to. Marcus didn't move, but something in his stillness changed. It became absolute, the stillness of deep water before a storm. "It took considerable resources," the Empress continued, "but I traced back further than Earth's official records. Before Marcus Reeves joined diplomatic service, there was a gap. 5 years. Earth's military doesn't discuss those years. They're classified at the highest levels." She turned to Lissa. "Do you know what he was, daughter, before he came to polish floors in our palace?" "I don't care." Lissa stepped closer to Marcus. "Whatever he was a killer." The words dropped like stones into still water. "Not just any soldier," the Empress said softly. "Earth calls them different things. Operators. Specialists. Ghosts." She pulled up an image. Marcus, younger, harder, in black tactical gear, surrounded by others whose faces were redacted, the kind they send when war needs to be quiet. When entire operations need to vanish. When people need to disappear. Lissa looked at Marcus. His face remained neutral, but she saw it now. The way he'd always moved, the way his eyes constantly tracked exits, the way his hands, even relaxed, stayed ready. All those months she'd thought him simply cautious, reserved. Now the pieces assembled differently. "Marcus?" Her voice barely whispered. He met her eyes. "It's true." Guards shifted positions subtly. The Empress's own security detail moved fractionally closer. "So," the Empress said, "you see now what stands beside you. Not a simple diplomat, not a humble servant of Earth's peaceful expansion, but a weapon in human skin, sent, not sent." Marcus's voice remained level, but something dangerous edged into it. "I requested this posting." The Empress's eyes narrowed. "Why?" Even the Empress seemed momentarily at a loss. Marcus continued, each word measured. "Earth's military didn't want to lose me. But after the Viridian campaign, after I'd spent 5 years doing things I'll never speak of, I told them I was done. They offered me this as alternative service." a way to use my skills for observation instead of elimination. He looked at Lissa, and for the first time she saw something vulnerable in his expression. I came here to learn how to be something else. Someone else. Transformation? The Empress's voice could cut glass. No. Marcus shook his head. She chose me. I tried to keep my distance. I knew what I was, what I'd done, but she saw something in me I'd thought was dead. This time he didn't pull away. The Empress watched them, her expression unreadable. Then she did something that shocked everyone present. She laughed. Not cruelly, but with genuine, startled amusement. "Oh, daughter," she said, still smiling. "Do you have no idea, do you?" Lissa's scales flashed confusion. "What do you mean?" "I mean," the Empress said, ascending back to her throne, "that you think I revealed this to stop you, that I pulled back the curtain on your beloved's past to frighten you away." She settled into her seat, regal and composed. "But I didn't bring Marcus Reeves here, to this hall in front of the entire court, to shame him. I brought him here to see if he'd run. If he'd lie. If he'd become what he was when threatened." Her eyes fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made the air shimmer. "A man who's truly done with violence doesn't stand calm when his secrets are exposed in front of hundreds. He doesn't meet the eyes of an empress who could have him executed with a word. He doesn't hold steady when everything he's built might crumble." "But you did," the Empress said to Marcus. "You stood. You admitted truth. You protected nothing but your honor and hers." She gestured to Lissa. "That is not the behavior of a weapon. That is the behavior of a man." Lissa's breath caught. The Empress rose again, descending the steps one final time. When she reached them, she extended her hand, palm up, a gesture of profound respect in Valoran culture. "Marcus Reeves," she said formally, "former instrument of Earth's darkest work, current student of redemption, and a parent chosen of my only daughter. I don't know if you deserve her, but I know she's chosen well." She placed her hand on his shoulder, then Lissa's. "The Accord allows this union, and so do I." The hall exploded into controlled chaos. Marcus stood perfectly still, processing. Lissa felt tears streak down her face, her scales shimmering every color of joy. But the Empress wasn't finished. "However," she said, voice cutting through the noise, "there is one condition." She looked at Marcus, and her expression turned deadly serious. "Your past made you what you are. I don't expect you to forget it. But I need to know, truly know, that when darkness comes for this family, for my daughter, you'll remember those skills, that you won't hesitate." Marcus met her gaze steadily. "Your Majesty, I left that life because I was tired of killing. But I never said I'd forgotten how." His hand found Lissa's, squeezed gently. "For her, I'd become it again, without hesitation, without mercy." The Empress studied him for a long moment, then nodded, satisfied. "Good," she said, "because 3 months from now you'll need to be." Before anyone could question that cryptic statement, alarm shrieked through the palace. The hall's massive doors burst open. A royal guard stumbled in, scales burned, armor smoking. "Your Majesty!" he gasped. "The border stations! They're gone!" All of them. Destroyed in coordinated strikes. He fell to one knee, struggling for breath. "It's the Krail Dominion. They've declared war, and they're already here." Distant explosions rumbled through the palace foundation. Screams echoed from the outer corridors. Marcus's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The reserved diplomat vanished. What remained was the operator, the ghost, the weapon he'd claimed to have left behind. His eyes scanned the hall with tactical precision, calculating exits, threats, defenses. "Lissa," he said quietly, voice utterly calm in the chaos, "stay behind me." "Your Majesty, how many guards in the palace?" 200, maybe less now. Not enough. Marcus was already moving toward the fallen guard, checking his weapon systems, his wounds. The Creel don't attack unless they have overwhelming advantage. If they hit all border stations simultaneously, they've got fleet superiority, which means this isn't just an invasion. He looked up, eyes hard. "This is a decapitation strike. They're here for you, Your Majesty, for the royal family." Another explosion, closer now. The palace shuddered. "Then let them come," the Empress snarled, her own guards forming around her. "No." Marcus stood, the injured guard's sidearm now in his hand, checking its charge with practiced efficiency. "Let them think they've succeeded." He looked at Lissa, and she saw both the man she loved and the killer he'd been, merged into something terrifying and magnificent. "I need you to trust me," he said. "All of you. Because the only way we survive the next hour is if I stop being Marcus Reeves." Diplomat, his eyes went cold as winter stars. "And remember how to be Ghost 7, Earth's most efficient solution to impossible problems?" The ceiling above them exploded inward. Armored Krill shock troops descended on grav harnesses, weapons already firing. Marcus moved. The transformation was absolute. One moment he stood beside Lissa. The next, he was a blur of controlled violence. The first Creel died before hitting the ground, Marcus's borrowed weapon placing a shot through the weak point in his armor with surgical precision. The second fell as Marcus used the first's body as a shield, closing distance, snapping the creature's neck with a move too fast to follow. The third managed to aim. Marcus was already behind him, weapon taken, reversed fired. 3 more Krail dropped from above. Marcus rolled, came up firing, each shot perfectly placed. No wasted movement. No hesitation, just brutal, efficient, terrifying competence. 15 seconds. Marcus stood among the bodies, breathing steady, eyes already tracking the next threat. Lissa stared, scales white with shock. "Well," the Empress said softly, even as her own guards engaged more cruel pouring through the breach, "I think I understand why Earth classified those 5 years." Marcus turned to them, and Lissa saw it clearly now. The man she loved was still there, in his eyes, in the way he positioned himself between her and danger. But he was wearing the ghost-like armor, becoming what was necessary. "We need to move," he said, voice clipped, professional. "This hall is a kill box." "Your Majesty, is there a secondary command center?" "Yes, lower levels, but—" Marcus grabbed a second weapon from a fallen Krul. "We go up, to the royal quarters. Defensible, limited access points, and they won't expect you to move toward luxury instead of fortification." "You presume to command the Empress's movements, human?" Marcus didn't look at him. His eyes were on the breach, tracking shadows. "No, I'm offering tactical advice based on having run operations exactly like this one. But you're welcome to head to the command center and see how many Krill are waiting for you." More explosions. Closer. The palace was falling. The Empress made her decision. "We go up." Now, they moved as a group. The Empress, her guards, Lissa, key advisors, and Marcus on point, moving like death itself, clearing corners, calling out threats before her guards even saw them. Twice more they encountered Krill strike teams. Twice more, Marcus moved with that terrible efficiency, and the Krill died. But Lissa saw the cost. Each kill, each necessary violence, something in Marcus's eyes grew harder, colder. He was doing exactly what he tried to leave behind, and it was consuming him. They reached the royal quarters. The guards began fortifying positions. The Empress activated emergency protocols. And, for the first time in 20 minutes, they had a moment to breathe. Marcus stood at the window, looking out at the burning city below, at the Krail warships hanging in the sky like predatory birds. His hands were steady on the captured weapon, but Lissa saw the tremor starting in his shoulders. She approached carefully. "Marcus?" He didn't turn. "I told you I'd become it again for you. I didn't think it would be this soon." His voice was rough, strained. "I didn't think it would be this easy. You saved us. I killed 17 sentients in less than 30 minutes. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were haunted. "Didn't think, just executed. Like breathing. Like I never stopped." It was covered in Krill blood, shaking now that the immediate danger had passed. "You protected us." "That's different." "Is it?" He looked down at his hands. "I can still feel it. The training. The muscle memory. Everything I tried to bury. It's all still there, Lissa. I'm still him. I'll always be him." "No." She turned him to face her fully. "You're also the man who stood in that hall and chose truth over deception. Who requested this posting because you wanted to change." "Who?" The Empress's tactical officer shouted. "They've breached the lower palace. Multiple strike teams converging on this position." Marcus's moment of vulnerability vanished. The operator returned, sharp and focused. "How many?" "Heavy weapons. They know we're here." "Then we make our stand." Marcus turned to the Empress's security chief. "Give me tactical command. Just for this. After, you can throw me in whatever cell you want. But right now, you need someone who's done this before." She nodded. "What do you need?" the chief asked. Marcus's mind was already working. Visible in the way his eyes traced the room's architecture, the approaches, the bottlenecks, collapse the main stairwell. Force them through the eastern corridor. It's narrow, limits their numerical advantage. Place your best marksmen here and here, he pointed. Overlapping fields of fire. When they try to breach, they'll be funneled into a kill zone. That's a defensive position, the chief said. We'll be trapped. We're already trapped, Marcus corrected. But trapped doesn't mean defeated. It means we control the battlefield.
They want the Empress.
And when they do, we make every meter cost them blood. The chief hesitated, then began barking orders. The guards moved with practiced efficiency, setting charges on the stairwell, repositioning, creating the kill zone Marcus described. Lissa helped where she could, but mostly she watched Marcus work. This was the man her mother had warned her about, the weapon in human skin. But she also saw how he positioned himself always between her and the likely attack vectors. How he made sure the Empress had the most protected position. How he gave the guards credit for their skills while directing them with quiet competence. He was a weapon, but he was her weapon, wielded in her defense, in defense of those she loved. The first Cruel hit the eastern corridor 10 minutes later. Marcus's tactics were devastatingly effective. The narrow corridor became a slaughterhouse. The Creel, expecting to overwhelm through numbers and firepower, instead found themselves trapped in a carefully constructed kill zone. The Valoran guards, following Marcus's directions, created overlapping fields of fire that left the Creel with nowhere to hide, nowhere to advance. But the Creel kept coming, wave after wave. They had the numbers, and they were willing to spend lives to achieve their objective. Bodies piled up in the corridor, but still they pushed forward, using their dead as cover, advancing meter by bloody meter. Marcus fought beside the guards, his shots precise and economical. But Lissa could see the toll. Not physical, he seemed tireless, a machine of violence, but emotional. Each kill, each necessary death, carved something away from the man she knew. They're going to break through, the security chief said, checking ammunition levels. We're running low on charges, another wave, maybe two, and... I know, Marcus said quietly. He looked at Lissa, then the Empress. I have one more option, but you won't like it. Speak, the Empress commanded. I go to them. Marcus set down his weapon. Alone, unarmed, offered to negotiate. That's suicide, the chief said flatly. No, that's misdirection. Marcus's eyes glinted with something cold and calculating. The Creel are hierarchical, rigid chain of command. Their commander will be somewhere safe, directing the assault. If I can get to him, convince him I'm surrendering the Empress's location, he'll bring me in. He looked at the Empress. And when he does, when his guard is down because he thinks he's won, I'll kill him, cut the head off the snake. Their command structure will collapse long enough for your reinforcements to arrive. And you'll die, Lissa said, her voice breaking. Marcus turned to her, and for a moment, the ghost receded. The man returned, soft and sad and achingly genuine. Maybe. Probably. But you'll live. Your mother will live. That's worth it. Lissa grabbed his arm. I didn't choose you just to watch you throw your life away in some heroic sacrifice. We'll find another way. There is no other way. Marcus gently pulled free. This is what I'm good at, Lissa. This is what I was made for. Maybe. He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Maybe this is how I earn redemption. Not by running from what I was, but by using it for something that matters. The Empress watched this exchange with unreadable eyes. Then she spoke, voice heavy with something that might have been respect. You would do this? Knowing you'll likely die? Yes, Your Majesty. For my daughter? For you. For the chance that maybe, just maybe, the last thing Ghost 7 does is save lives instead of taking them. Silence filled the room, broken only by distant weapons fire as the Creel regrouped for another push. Then a small voice spoke from the corner. There's another way. A young Valoran, barely adolescent, stepped forward from where she'd been huddled with other palace staff. Lissa recognized her. Kessa, one of the junior archivists. Child, this isn't... the security chief began. The old passages, Kessa interrupted, her scales shimmering nervous yellow but her voice steady. The ones from before the palace was renovated. They run through the walls. I've mapped them for my historical research. There's a route that leads directly to the central command level, where their leader would be. Marcus's attention sharpened. Show me. Kessa pulled up a holographic map on her personal device, highlighting a network of maintenance tunnels and forgotten corridors. Here. It's narrow. Only one person could fit. And you'd need to know the path exactly, but it bypasses all their positions. Comes out here. She pointed. 20 meters from where their command signals are originating. How do you know where their command signals are coming from? The Empress asked. Kessa looked embarrassed. I may have been monitoring their communications frequencies for academic purposes. Understanding enemy protocols is part of historical warfare study. Marcus studied the map, his tactical mind working. This could work. I'd be behind their lines, undetected. Could hit their commander before they knew I was there. He looked at Kessa. Can you guide me? I can do better. Kessa's scales shifted to determined blue. I know those passages by heart. Absolutely not, the Empress said. You're a child, old enough to serve. Kessa stood straighter. And I know those passages better than anyone alive. If you send him alone with just a map, he'll get lost. The old ways are maze-like, deliberately confusing, but I can guide him true. Marcus shook his head. Too dangerous. I won't. You don't have a choice, Kessa said simply. You need me. And, she looked at Lissa, the princess chose you. That means something. It means you're worth saving. So let me help save you. The logic was sound, even if the idea was insane. Marcus looked at the Empress, who looked at her security chief, who looked at the tactical situation, and sighed. It's the best option we have, the chief admitted. Maybe the only one. The Empress closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, they were hard with the decision only a ruler could make. Go, both of you. End this. Marcus armed himself, light weapons, knives, anything that could be moved quietly through tight spaces. Kessa led him to a hidden panel in the royal quarters wall. As she opened it, revealing a dark, narrow passage beyond, Marcus turned back one last time. His eyes found Lissa's. If I don't come back... You'll come back? Lissa said fiercely. You promised me a future, Marcus Reeves. Don't you dare break that promise. He smiled, sad and gentle. I'll try. Then he turned to Kessa. Stay behind me. If shooting starts, you drop and let me handle it. Understood? Understood? They vanished into the walls. The panel closed behind them, leaving only darkness and the sound of approaching Creole warriors. Lissa stared at the wall, her scales shifting through a dozen colors of fear and hope. Her mother's hand found her shoulder. He'll succeed, the Empress said quietly, or die trying. Either way, he's already proven himself worthy of you. How can you say that? Lissa's voice broke. He might die because of me, because I chose him. No. The Empress turned Lissa to face her. He might die because he chose to protect you. That's different. That's his honor, his decision, his sacrifice. And if he succeeds, she smiled slightly, then you'll have a husband who walked through darkness to bring back light. That's not a burden, daughter. That's a gift. In the walls, Marcus and Kessa moved through absolute darkness, guided only by the girl's perfect memory and occasional bioluminescent markers she'd placed years ago during her explorations. The passages were tight, claustrophobic, and Marcus had to control his breathing to prevent panic. This wasn't like urban warfare. This was burial, compression, the walls pressing in from all sides. But Kessa moved with confidence, her small form perfectly adapted to these forgotten ways. She navigated turns that seemed impossible, dropped through vertical shafts that Marcus barely fit through, and all the while she whispered directions, warnings, encouragement. You're doing well, she said at one point. Most adults panic in here, the walls, the dark, but you're steady. I've been in worse, Marcus said, though he wasn't sure that was true. When you were, what did they call you? Ghost 7? Marcus was surprised she knew. You were listening. I listened to everything. Kessa dropped through another shaft, landed softly. It's how I learn. I heard what the Empress said about you. What you were. What you did. She paused. Does it still hurt, remembering? The question was so direct, so innocent, that Marcus found himself answering honestly. Yes. Every life I took. I remember their faces, their last moments. I thought coming here, trying to be something else, would make it stop. But it doesn't. It just is. Doesn't that change it? I hope so, Marcus admitted. I really hope so. They moved in silence for a while longer, navigating the labyrinth. Then Kessa stopped, pressing her hand against a section of wall. Here, we're directly behind their command post. 20 meters, like I said. She looked up at Marcus, her young face serious in the dim bioluminescent glow. When you go through that panel, they'll be there. Probably 6 guards, maybe more. And their commander, he'll be the big one. Creel commanders always are. It's about physical dominance. Marcus checked his weapons. When I go through, you seal this panel behind me. Don't open it again unless you hear my voice giving the all clear. If you hear sustained weapons fire, you go back. Find another way to safety. Don't wait for me. But, Kessa, he looked at her steadily, you've been incredibly brave. You got me here, which no one else could have done. But this next part, this is what I do, what I was. And I need to know you'll be safe. Can you promise me that? I promise, but she reached out, touched his hand briefly. Come back. The princess needs you. And I think the galaxy needs you too. Someone who can be both things, weapon and protector. Killer and guardian. That's rare. Marcus felt something break in his chest, some wall he'd maintained. Thank you, he whispered. Then he turned to the panel. On 3, 1, 2.
He burst through.
The Creel command post was exactly as expected. A commandeered palace chamber, now filled with tactical displays, communication equipment, and 6 guards surrounding a massive Creel commander covered in battle scars and command insignia. Marcus moved like death itself. The first guard died before the commander could even register the intrusion, Marcus's blade finding the weak point between armor plates. The second managed to raise a weapon before Marcus broke his arm, reversed the weapon, fired point blank into the guard's throat. The third, fourth, and fifth guards converged. Marcus became a blur. Strikes, blocks, redirects. He used their size against them, their armor's weight making them slow where he was fast. A knife to the knee joint, dropping one. A reversal, using the falling guard to trip another. The third caught a shot to the head, clean and quick.
30 seconds. 5 guards dead.
Marcus faced the commander across the room, both breathing hard, the air thick with violence. The Creel commander laughed, a deep rumbling sound. Impressive, human. They said your species produced skilled warriors. I didn't believe it. He drew a massive blade, ornate and ancient. But this changes nothing. My fleet controls your skies. My troops control your palace. The Empress will die and Velar will fall, but you won't see it. They clashed. The commander was huge, powerful, each strike capable of splitting Marcus in half. But Marcus was faster, trained in techniques developed through thousands of years of human warfare. He ducked, rolled, struck at joints and gaps. The commander bled from a dozen small cuts, each weakening him, slowing him. But Marcus was tiring too. The fight in the hall, the tension, the emotional cost, it was all catching up. His movements grew fractionally slower, his breathing harder. The commander saw it, pressed the advantage. His blade caught Marcus across the ribs, cutting through armor, drawing blood. Marcus staggered back, pain exploding through his side. You die here, human, the commander said, raising his blade for the killing strike. A brave death, I'll grant you, but ultimately meaningless. Marcus looked up, blood running down his side, and smiled. Not meaningless. Educational. He pressed the detonator he'd pulled from the explosives rigged to collapse the stairwell. The charges he'd carefully placed throughout the command post during the fight, while the commander gloated. While his attention was on the duel rather than Marcus's other hand, the room exploded. Marcus was thrown backward. Through the panel he'd entered from, he crashed into the narrow passage, ears ringing, vision swimming. Behind him, the command post was fire and screaming metal in the death of the Creel commander. Hands grabbed him. Kessa, her eyes wide, was dragging him backward through the passage. I've got you. I've got you. Marcus tried to help, but his body wasn't responding properly. Blood loss, shock, the explosion's concussive force. It was all hitting at once. He could barely keep his eyes open as Kessa pulled him through the darkness. Her young strength surprising, her determination absolute. Stay with me, she kept saying. You promised. You promised to come back, so stay with me. Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness. He was aware of movement, of Kessa's voice, of pain that seemed to consume everything. Then there were more hands, adult hands, lifting him, voices, the security chief, palace medics, someone screaming orders. And then Lyssa's face scales white with terror, her hands on his face, his chest checking for life. Marcus? Marcus, stay with me. Please. Please don't... I'm here, he managed, his voice barely a whisper. Commander's dead. Fleet will scatter, no chain of command. You're safe, I don't care about that. Tears streamed down Lissa's face. I care about you. Stay awake. Stay with me. Marcus, please. He tried, but darkness was pulling him down, and he was so tired of fighting, of being the weapon, of carrying the weight of all those deaths, all that violence. But then Lissa's hand found his, squeezed tight. I love you, she said. Do you hear me? Not the diplomat, not the ghost. You, Marcus, the man who wanted to be better, who tried so hard to leave the darkness behind. And I need you to stay. For me. For us. For the future we're going to have. Marcus's eyes opened, focused on her face. I'm broken, Lissa. So broken. All those people I killed. All that darkness. It doesn't wash away just because I want it to. I know. She pressed her forehead to his, scales shimmering with every color of love and fear and desperate hope. But you don't have to be whole to be worthy. You just have to be willing to try. And you are. You proved that tonight. You used what you were to protect what you love. That's not darkness, Marcus. That's light fighting back. He wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to believe her. The Empress's voice cut through the moment. Clear the way. Medical team, now. Get him stabilized. She looked down at Marcus, her expression grave but not unkind. You saved us, Marcus Reeves. Saved my daughter. Valor itself. That's a debt I cannot repay. Don't want repayment, Marcus gasped. Just want her. Just want to try to be worth her. You already are. The Empress touched his shoulder once, a gesture of profound respect. Rest now. Heal. When you wake, we'll talk about the future, about what comes next. But for now, let us save you as you saved us. But this time, it wasn't the darkness of death pulling him down. It was the earned rest of a warrior who had finally found something worth fighting for, something worth living for. He woke 3 days later in the palace medical wing, every part of his body screaming pain. But Lissa was there, holding his hand, scales shimmering soft blue with relief. When she saw his eyes open, she smiled so bright it could have lit the entire palace. Welcome back, she whispered. Marcus squeezed her hand weakly. Did it work? The fleet? Scattered, like you predicted? Without their commander. Their command structure collapsed into infighting. Our reinforcements arrived and drove them off. The war's not over, but we won the battle. Because of you. Because of Kessa, Marcus corrected. Saved me after. How is she? The Empress granted her a full scholarship to the Royal Military Academy, youngest admission in history. Lissa smiled. She visits every day. Brings you historical texts about human warfare tactics. I think she's going to write her dissertation on Earth's special forces. Marcus managed a weak laugh that turned into a cough. Great. Create my own biographer, Marcus. Lissa's face grew serious. When you were in surgery, when we didn't know if you'd make it, my mother told me something. She said she'd known about your past before you ever arrived. That Earth's intelligence services and ours share information. She knew what Ghost 7 was.
What you'd done.
Then why did she let me stay? Because she wanted to see what you'd become. If a weapon could choose to be something else. If a man could carry darkness and still walk toward light. Lissa's eyes shimmered. She was testing you, Marcus. From the moment you arrived. And when I chose you, when you stood in that hall and accepted your truth instead of hiding it, when you fought to protect us, you passed. Every single test. You saw what I became. How easy it was to fall back into it. No. I saw what you always were. Someone strong enough to do terrible things when necessary, but disciplined enough to choose not to. That's not weakness, Marcus. That's the hardest kind of strength.
She leaned closer. You're not Ghost 7 anymore.
You're not even really Marcus Reeves, diplomat. You're something new. Something we don't have a name for yet. What's that? You're mine. My choice. My partner. My future. And if that future includes the occasional need for you to be terrifying and dangerous, so be it. Because I know that afterward you'll come back to me. Back to the man who wants to be better. Marcus felt tears. Unexpected and unstoppable. I don't deserve you. Maybe not. But you're stuck with me anyway. Lissa smiled. Besides, my mother already started planning the wedding. And trust me, you don't want to disappoint her twice. Despite everything, the pain, the exhaustion, the weight of all he'd done, Marcus laughed. Wouldn't dream of it. The weeks that followed were recovery and revelation. The Krail sued for peace, their invasion broken. Kessa became a fixture in Marcus's recovery room, bringing books, asking questions, slowly assembling a picture of Earth's covert operations that made Marcus simultaneously proud and terrified. The Empress formally recognized Marcus's service, granting him Valoran citizenship and a position as royal security advisor, much to the dismay of traditionalists, but no one argued, not after what he'd done. But the biggest revelation came on a quiet evening, when Marcus had finally regained enough strength to walk the palace gardens with Lissa. They stood on a balcony overlooking the city, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors Earth had never known, when Lissa spoke. "I need to tell you something," she said, "about why I chose you." Marcus turned to her, concerned. "What do you mean? When you first arrived, I barely noticed you. You were one of dozens of diplomats, and humans were, well, new. Interesting, but not particularly remarkable." She looked out at the city. "But then I saw you at the first state dinner. You were standing in a corner, watching everything, and I realized you weren't just observing. You were protecting, making sure every exit was clear, every potential threat noted. You were doing security work even though it wasn't your job." "Old habits," Marcus said quietly. "Maybe. But I started watching you back. And I saw how you moved, how you positioned yourself, how you were always aware. And I thought, this person has seen darkness. I could recognize it because I'd seen it too." She turned to him, and her scales shifted to colors he'd never seen before. Deep, complex, layered with meaning. "When I was younger, we had a different kind of war. Not invasion, terrorism, targeted strikes against the royal family. I lost 2 siblings before I was 10 cycles old." Marcus's breath caught. "Lissa, I watched them die, Marcus. Watched as security failed, as protocols meant to protect us proved inadequate. And I swore that day that I would never be helpless again, never let someone I loved be hurt because I wasn't strong enough, smart enough, prepared enough." She took his hands. "So when I saw you, saw that same recognition of danger, that same constant vigilance, I didn't see a weapon. I saw a guardian, someone who understood that sometimes darkness comes and you need to be ready. Not paranoid, not violent. Just, so you chose me because I was damaged?" Marcus asked, trying to understand. "No. I chose you because you were strong enough to live with your damage and still try to be gentle, because you could be terrifying when needed and kind when not. Because you understood that protection and love aren't opposites. They're the same thing, just different expressions." She pressed close to him. "I didn't need a perfect man, Marcus. I needed a real one. Someone who'd seen darkness and chose light anyway. That's you." Marcus pulled her into his arms, careful of his healing wounds. "I spent so long thinking I had to hide what I was, pretend to be someone else. But you saw me, really saw me, and loved me anyway. I loved you because of all of it. The darkness and the light, the weapon and the man. All of you." They stood there, holding each other as the sun set. 2 people who'd found in each other what they'd been searching for. Acceptance, understanding, and the promise that the future could be different from the past. The wedding was 3 months later, a fusion of Valoran tradition and human custom that brought together 2 worlds in celebration. Kessa served as one of Lissa's honor attendants, beaming with pride and still occasionally asking Marcus tactical questions that made the other guests uncomfortable. The Empress presided, regal and pleased, her earlier tests forgotten in favor of genuine affection for her new son-in-law. But the moment Marcus remembered most wasn't the ceremony itself, grand as it was. It was afterward, in the quiet of their chambers, when Lissa came to him still wearing her ceremonial scales, shimmering with colors that meant joy and hope and love. "No regrets?" she asked, only half joking. Marcus pulled her close, thinking of all the paths his life had taken. The darkness of Go 7, the pretense of diplomatic service, the revelation of truth, the choice to fight not for destruction, but for protection. All of it had led here, to this moment, to her. "Not a single one," he said. And meant it, because Marcus Reeves had learned something in the fires of that terrible night, something Lissa had tried to tell him all along. You don't escape darkness by running from it. You transform it by choosing what you fight for, by becoming not what your past made you, but what your love inspires you to be. He was still a weapon, would always be. But now he was a weapon with purpose, with meaning, with someone worth protecting, and that made all the difference. In the years that followed, Marcus and Lissa became symbols of something larger than themselves, proof that different worlds could bridge seemingly impossible gaps. Marcus trained Vaylor's security forces, sharing Earth's hard-won knowledge while learning Valoran tactics in return. When threats came, and they did, for the galaxy was never truly at peace, he met them with the same lethal efficiency he'd always possessed, but tempered now by purpose and love. He was no longer Ghost 7, killing in the dark. He was the Empress's blade, Lissa's shield, Vaylor's guardian. And sometimes, late at night, when old nightmares surfaced, when the weight of all those past lives pressed down, Lissa would hold him and remind him of a simple truth. The measure of a person isn't what they've done, but what they choose to do next. Marcus chose love, chose protection, chose to be the weapon only when necessary, and the man always. That choice, renewed every day, was his redemption. Not erasing the past, but building a future bright enough to balance the darkness. And when their first child was born, a daughter with Lissa's scales and Marcus's eyes, he held her with hands that had taken so many lives and swore an oath more binding than any he'd made as Ghost 7, that she would grow up in a galaxy where warriors could choose peace, where darkness could transform into light, and where love was always, always worth fighting for. The story of Ghost 7, the human weapon who'd terrorized Earth's enemies, faded into classified files and whispered legends. But the story of Marcus Reeves, the man who loved a princess and saved an empire, grew into something more. A reminder that redemption isn't about forgetting what you were, but about choosing what you become. And in choosing love, Marcus found something he'd thought lost forever in those dark years of violence. He found himself.